You know, it's summertime and the kids need some outdoor fun and some indoor fun when it's too hot outside. So we came up with making a cardboard bowling game. Let's see how we make this. It's very simple, made from a few items that you might even have right in your own home. All that's coming up next on Crafting with Nyla. To make our bowling pin, I started with a pattern, and I just kind of I just drew out a bowling pin just from guessing. There was no perfect measurement or template. So, and I just cut this out, and I kind of folded it in half and made sure that it was mirrored on both sides, and that way my cuts would be even and they would be identical. Now, as far as the base that we're going to set it in, I just did a basic simple base that this would sit like down inside just like that, and we're going to glue it, and that's what helps that stay up. So anyway, you're going to need a total of 10, and I'm using a refrigerator box because the refrigerator box has multiple layers of cardboard. So it has a couple of layers, and it makes it really thick so you don't have to cut out but one. So I made my template, and I've got 2 cut out, so now I'm going to cut out the other 8. So before I cut them, I'm going to draw them out, and I'm going to get close to the edge so I can reuse the cardboard. So I finished tracing all of my bowling pins. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I have the 2, so that gives me the 10. What I'm going to do first, because this is a big piece of cardboard, I'm just going to cut the top portion off here to get rid of this bottom piece. And I'm using a box cutter. Okay, so now that I've got the cardboard down to a manageable size, you can cut these out using your X-Acto knife, and you can go in and out all around. Now you can cut each of the sections out by using a box cutter. If you're skilled enough, then I say go for it. And see, I'm scoring them, and that lets you break it, and then it makes it easier to cut. And now that I've got them scored, I can just break them like so, and then you can just finish cutting. You can even cut this portion with a pair of regular scissors, because now it's very easy because you scored it. Now if you don't have a good pair of utility scissors, and you only have your regular cutting scissors, I'm going to show you what you can do to cut these out a little faster and a little easier. I'm just getting a piece of cardboard to work off of, and I started by just running my blade across and cutting off the bottom, because you know the bottom is flat. And now I'm going to lay it on here, and using the pressure from my fingers, I'm just kind of riding around the shape of the bowling pin, and I'm pretty much scoring it. Be careful with using the razor blade, so make sure you're turning and getting your hand away from it so you don't cut yourself. And you score it all the way around. Okay, always close your razor blade. So now that you've scored it a little bit, you can take a regular pair of scissors now, because you're only cutting the back side. And see, it cuts so much easier because you're only cutting one piece of cardboard. And that's just the back side. And there you have it. So that's how you can do it. So we'll go ahead and cut all these out, and then I'll come back and show you what we'll do next. Okay, now I've cut out all of my pins. I have just one for each pin. And like I said, this is pretty hard. It feels almost like wood. This cardboard's so thick. That's, like I said, that's why I use the refrigerator cardboard paper or cardboard box. So now we want to cut out the base, and that's this piece that makes it stand. So I just drew out my circle, and like I said, there is no particular way of doing that. I just kind of put it in the center and just drew a line around it. And so this is my template, And I went and traced out all of the templates on the scrap piece of cardboard that I had left out. And I'm going to show you how we can cut those. We'll cut them the same way we cut out the bowling pins. You're going to take your box cutter and you're just going to score around in a circle. And I'm just turning it as I go. And this makes it so much easier. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're not going to paint this portion. It's just going to sit as a base. So we'll do this to all of these and then we'll just go back and cut them out like we did before. Now that it's been scored, again, you can take, your utility scissor or a regular scissor because now, like before, you're only cutting the bottom half because you scored the top. So you just want to go ahead and cut all these out and then we'll go back and we'll work on the center. Okay, so now I've cut out all the bases. We got all of the pins cut out. Now you want to cut out this little piece in the middle and you're going to do it the exact same way. You're just going to score it down one side, score it down the other side, and then score the ends. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect because this is where your bowling pin is going to ride right down the middle of this. And that's what's going to help it to stand up. But you want to make sure you get all that paper cleaned out of there. So keep cutting until you get that hole cleaned out. You may have to do it on both sides a little bit till you get it completely done. But you want the hole to cut out. Because what you're going to end up doing is you're going to force this in there. But before you do that, we're also going to clip a little bit past the opening on each side. And that's just going to make the opening a little wider. So when you go to put this in there, it's going to ride, but it's also going to be forced down like that. So that's what you're going to get. And you want this little bit of, you want about a ½ inch sticking out on the outside because we're going to end up cutting that off. So now I've got all my little slits cut out, and sometimes you get a few pieces left in there, so make sure you get all that out of the way where the cardboard pieces get stuck inside. So what you want to do now is you want to take each one of these and go ahead and insert them inside just so you can get them to where you want it. And the reason you're doing that is you're going to go ahead and prepare them for putting the glue on. So now I have them all inside the base just to kind of get it trained. So now you can kind of pull them all out because now we've got it trained and we've got that space expanded a little bit. We can undo them all and now we can get the pins completely done before we start gluing them together. So we're going to push these off on the side now. Now using your pattern, you want to cut out 2 of this pattern of plain white paper for every pin, because when you turn the pin around you want it to see the same thing on both sides. So I've already went and cut out 16 of these because we've already got 2. And so I'm going to use the Elmer's Extreme glue. That means it holds pretty good. And you're just going to, because you're gluing paper and it's thin paper, we don't have to use the glue gun. And besides, we want this nice and smooth. So I'm going to take my glue stick and I'm going to glue. And you don't really need a lot because this stuff sticks really, really good. It's really strong as far as paper goes. It holds up really good. And if you got any crevices, get down in the crevices. Okay? And of course I got some glue on my hands. So now you're going to take one of your pieces of your paper and you're going to lay it down on top because it should match exact. If not, just reposition it and press that down. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Put the glue down. And grab another one. And this glue dries really fast. It's actually really, really tacky. And that's what I like about it because it dries really quick. Okay, so now we've got another pin completely done on both sides. So you want to go ahead and do this for all your pins. So I have all the paper glued on the fronts and the backs of all of my bowling pins. So now you want to draw your lines And I'm just going to take a red marker, a red Sharpie, and not at the crease. I'm actually doing it above the crease, and I'm just making the line maybe twice as thick as the marker. And then down below, I'll do the same with the line. It doesn't have to be perfect, and that's what pretty much what I'm going to do. And like I said, just above the line. And you'll go ahead and mark all your pins on the front and the back. Now I have all the pins marked, and because it's white, it's possible they'll get dirty. And a couple of mine got dirty from the glue sticking on my hands. So I'm going to take an eraser and just erase it right off. That's one thing I love about using this white and just plain paper, because you can erase it, any marks on it, and get it right off. Okay, so now all the pins are done. They've been marked on the front and the back. So now we're ready to pull our glue gun. Now I'm using a hot temp glue gun because anytime I glue cardboard, I like a hot temp glue gun. So I'm going to take the hot glue and I'm going to put it right on the ends, on both sides, just right at the edge. Okay, and now you want to insert it inside, and then I pull it back out and then stick it back in to loosen the glue up some. Now this is where you want to make sure you press it, and on the bottom you want to make sure you have about a ½ inch sticking out, just like that, a ½ inch. And you want to lay them down and let them dry. So again, you're going to take your glue gun and hot glue just at the bottom on both sides. And don't worry about the glue strings, because you can just pull those off later. Again, stick it inside, pull it back out, and that just kind of distributes the glue, and then press it back down and make sure you got a ½ amount sticking out. And by pushing it in and out, you're allowing the glue to get down into these crevices here. Okay, now that the glue has dried, and it's pretty hard, so what I'm going to do now is take my utility knife, or you can take the cutter, and you want to cut off that bottom piece off the bottom. Just slice it right off to make it flat, and when you cut it right off, you notice it stands up. All the ends, the bottoms have been cut, so now the pins are standing on their own, but they're kind of flimsy, so we want to make them a little more sturdy, that when you knock them, they don't fall right away, because that we want the game to be challenging. So I have these little towel pieces. Now to tell you what these are, you know how you can go to your local hardware store, big box store, and you have these tiles. They sit on a backing, and when they're sitting on this backing, you know, they come together like this, and it's like one sheet, and you kind of glue it on the back and glue it on your wall. Well, that's where these come. So I took that and I just tore them off, and what I'm going to do now is we're going to anchor it, and I'm going to add 4 of these little glass squares, or these glass tiles, on the bottom of each of the pins. So I'm going to put one there. So if you want to, you can actually put the glue down first. If you can see this, so I'm going to put one. I'm going to put one right there. I'm going to put one right here, and I'm going to put one right there. So now that I've got the glue, we're just going to take them and just mash them down and let them adhere. They don't have to be in any particular place. Just put them on the bottom somewhere, just so that they can add as an anchor. And they'll also kind of give the pin a little height. So now when I do that, you see the pins, it fits perfectly, and see when I hit it, it rocks. And that way it weighs down, and it'll make it a little more challenging for the kids to play with. But isn't that just cool? Look at that. So they really got to really work to get it to knock down. Just love it. So I'm going to go ahead and glue all the glass tile pieces on the bottom of all the pins. So now I have the bases on the bottom of all the pins, and as you can see, they wobble, but they don't fall down. They rock. So it's going to take quite a bit to knock them down, and that's what you want. You want to make it challenging for the kids. So I hope this tip has been helpful on how to make your own bowling pins from cardboard in everyday items. So I hope that you try this. Happy crafting!